This is Kyle. That is Laura. This is He Said, She Said. Happy post Super Bowl, Laura. How's it going?
Woohoo!
Did your team
Everything's.
win?
I didn't have a team this year,
Well, I don't
so
think
I
any. I
was
don't
just.
think anyone in America had a team this year, except maybe if you lived in San Francisco or Baltimore.
So yeah, You know what? It was not a big brouhaha here in my house, but we did have fun watching it, nevertheless.
Yeah, well, I watched a quarter of it and was done. So we're going to talk tonight about chivalry. So you brought this up. I wrote an article about a week or 2 weeks ago called "The End of Chivalry,"
Ugh.
and in that post, I kind of laid out the argument for why chivalry or gentlemanly behavior is kind of dead,
Ugh.
and why, quite frankly, it's kind of the woman's fault that it is.
Can you expand on that just a teeny bit?
So here's how I laid it out, right? And I tied all this into the knight and chivalry and King Arthur's court and all that other stuff, right? So and I'm going to get a little deep here, so I just want to prepare you for kind of what I'm about to say because it's somewhat serious, right?
Okay.
So chivalry itself, right? So gentlemanly, behavior and the way that a man treats a woman and so forth is predicated upon certain roles, right? A man has certain roles, women have certain roles, and I don't mean that in a negative way outside of the fact that there is just simply some things, Laura, that men are able to do better than women, and there's other things that women are able to do better than men. And I know that for most people, especially women, they don't like the sound of that. That's just physiologically, that's just the way that it is. I'm sorry. Laura, can you bench press 200 pounds?
No.
Okay. Most women can't either. I'm sorry. I can't give birth. That's just the way it was all meant to be. Okay. So we need to clear that distinction right now. There are going to be things that men and women can't do. Part of what men can do obviously has to deal with their physical strength and the fact that as a man, we are intrinsically wired to be protective. That's just the way that we're designed, right? Protect our family. You take a look through the ages. I mean, when you look at chivalry and the knight itself and kind of how he was, that whole genre and the way he was designed, he really took oaths on three things, right? His fellow man, God, and women. Part of a knight's job was to protect those weaker than them, i.e. women. That's just the way that it was. So when knights went into battle, it wasn't expected that the fair maiden was going to pull up a sword and shield and go defend everybody, all right? She was going to stay behind in the keep while the knights went to battle. That was just part of it. So there was these roles. So as we've moved into the 21st century, these roles, these distinctions are starting to diminish, right? And the case in point that I used was the recent announcement that women are going to be allowed, if they're physically capable, of fighting on the front lines of battle. On the front lines. Where else is there to go now? I mean, we've got unisex bathrooms, okay, so we've eliminated that piece of it. Where is it? I mean, outside of the pure physiological, the fact that women can give birth, all distinctions have been erased. So when you remove those distinctions, and in essence you have a situation where women are trying to assume and take the responsibilities that men have historically done, where does that leave a man when he wants to protect and he wants to take care of, and he is actually criticized for it? For being controlling and being, I can take care of myself.
Let me ask you this, because I have definite thoughts on this, opinions. Shockingly, how do you think it's played out? How do you think it's playing out right now? How do you think that is playing out?
Here's what I say: when a woman asks me, where have all the men gone? You know what I say to them? Women are becoming the men. You're becoming them. If you want to take care of yourself and do all these things for yourself, Don't get upset when he doesn't offer.
I hear you.
That's the facts, Laura. I mean, that is just the facts. You tell a man many enough times that the things that you've been hardwired to do and that you've been created to do, for lack of a better term, aren't needed. That, I can do that myself. I can take care of myself. I can do these myself. You know what? Then do it. Then just go do it. But
Yeah.
don't get upset though when you turn around and say, "Well, there are no more good men left." Well, you ran them off. You told them they weren't needed.
I work in women's kind of empowerment. You know that.
Right.
I have a very strong affinity for working with women and empowering them to create the kind of lives and to create what they want in their life. However, I fully 100% agree with you. We are not the same. And I believe that walking this through all the way, all the way out, that it is a huge, this what you've just laid out is a huge problem in people forming healthy, men and women forming healthy and really strong and really passionate relationships.
That's a great point because I was thinking of this. I think a healthy relationship, all right, and people may not like what I'm about to say. I think a healthy relationship between two people is defined by the roles that they have within that relationship. All right. Now, that does not mean that one role is more important than another. That
Correct.
means that there are clear, take the word roles out for a moment and call it responsibilities. Whatever. The meaning's the same. Each person in the relationship has certain responsibilities that they either have willingly accepted or through consensus have agreed to accept. All right? When those roles start to bleed into one another and you've got two people doing the same thing, usually confusion is what comes out as a result.
And it's more than that. It's even more than that because we are two separate creatures. We are human, but we are two separate creatures. And when people they talk about the chemistry, the attraction, the thing that creates that is the feminine energy and masculine energy and the polarity there. And if those energies, I should say, become muddled, when a woman takes on a more masculine energy, and therefore a man is kind of taking on a more feminine energy within a relationship, you can forget about the attraction. The attraction will go away. And people don't even recognize that it's happening, but it really fundamentally is because of exactly what you're talking about. One of the things Drew said to me early on, and anyone who knows me knows that I am pretty strong, pretty assertive, pretty capable, pretty independent, and and I can take care of myself. But one of the things he said early on is, you're so sexy because you love being a woman. Women, I think, sometimes fear that accepting chivalry is a sign of weakness, and therefore, if they aren't putting themselves out there in a way that is fiercely independent and fiercely self-sufficient, that somehow it's a weakness.
Why is that?
Listen, we have feminism I don't want to say feminism to blame, because feminism had its role and there were purposes behind that movement. But there's varying degrees, because it has to do with dependence on a man, reliance on a man.
I have heard that so many times.
I know, but it's not true.
But and Yeah, we think that's like one-sided. So you're talking about the financial dependence. I think that's what most people mean when they say that.
I'm not sure that's what they mean. I think part of it is a financial dependence, but I think there's also a listen. Let's go back to the the mom is home as a stay-at-home mom who stays home and really is completely dependent upon her husband financially to take care of the house, to give her money to do what she needs to. She didn't have and so we were all, my generation was all raised with no, 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 you can be so much more. You just have to go out there because you can do anything any man can do. You can do it. And it was like, yes, I can, and you should earn as much as any man. Yes, I should. But the truth is, we have to separate and break those things down. I can go off. I am very successful professionally and personally, and financially. I am self-sustaining. But I love needing Drew. I love him being a man. And I don't want to be the same thing as he is. I could if I had to, but I don't
One of
want
the most insulting things a woman can tell a man that she quote unquote loves or she's in a relationship with is that I don't need you to take care of me.
Oh,
Do not say that to a man. Saying that to a man is one of the most insulting things you can ever tell him. Because in those few words, you have in essence taken away everything that he's about. You could almost say it wouldn't be much different than telling a woman, I don't really need you to be a mom. Think about that for a moment.
yeah.
That's one of the distinctions that makes a woman who she is the fact that she can, whether if she chooses to, hopefully, be a mother. That's part of who she is. Part of who
Right.
men are, Laura, is we are protective by nature. That's how we were created. That's how we're designed. That's part of who we are. To attempt to take that away from us out of some sense of revenge or proof that I can do what you can do, you're going to look around one day and realize it wasn't supposed to be this way. And women, like I said, women go back and they complain, where have all the good men gone?
See, here's the problem. We're not competing.
But
We're
they
not
think that they
competing.
are.
What?
The only people that are competing, guys don't feel, I've never in my 42 years felt that I was competing with a woman for anything.
Correct. But I think sometimes people do, within their relationships, they go at it like that. They in their head, that's kind of what's going on. And we're not in competition. We should be, enjoying, embracing, and celebrating. I want to celebrate you as a man. That is who you are. And I love that. And what I hope women will take from this, if they're watching, is that, to be a full woman, and to embrace a man is not a weakness. It's not lesser than. It's not unequal.
Has the search for equality ultimately paid off? Are women happier today than they were 30 years ago? 40 years ago?
It's a great question. My answer to that would be, I don't think so.
I don't either. I don't either.
There may be more opportunities available to women in a different way, and that's, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe it's a wonderful thing that there are opportunities, out there. However, ultimately, in intimate, loving relationships, in the partnership of a man and a woman, or I think it actually holds true in same sex as well, but I don't think it's made people any happier than they once were.
Job prospects, career advancement, and paychecks. Ladies, take it from the males, they don't make you happy.
Yeah.
They just don't. You'll find that out in the long
I'll
run.
give you a story. My parents have been married a long time. My parents have been married 48 years. And my mother always worked full time. She is extremely strong and smart. And, she always, my mother, I grew up always, she had her take this little extra money. Don't tell your father. It's my little account on the side it's my discretion. I use this at my discretion. And I always knew that she did that. But let me tell you something, in my house, and she was so independent, and their relationship was so, equal in so many ways. And yet, dinner was on the table for him every single night. My father got served first every single night. You did not finish the last bit of orange juice. That was saved for my father. There were all of these, he never did laundry. He never did anything. And my father, their relationship is so healthy and vibrant and strong. And I always I thought, God, there's such a traditional piece to them. And after all this, but what I've grown to understand now that I know so much more about intimate relationships and how I want it is that she always made him feel like the man of the house. She always, because that dynamic is what kept their chemistry. It's what kept their attraction. And the more she did that, the more he just embraced and supported and encouraged and empowered her.
It doesn't take a lot. Guys don't need a lot. They really don't, Laura. I mean, when you think about it for a moment, and I'm going to use your parents as an example, I have no doubt that if necessary, your father would have ran through a wall for her at a moment's notice. And probably because he felt that she believed that he could.
As strong and manly as Drew is, and he would break down a wall for me. He would protect me, wield his sword, and do his thing. There is no question that I am equally, if not stronger than him in a whole bunch of other ways. And it's because I am a woman, and it's because he is the man, and we don't compare the ways that we have strength, but these things complement each other. It's not a weakness for a woman to allow to believe in her man and that he can do that. It's not a sign of weakness at all.
It is so surprising to me that anyone would even consider that a weakness at all. I don't understand, in light of the fact that, the feminist movement is 40 years in the past, 40 years ago is really when it started. Why there is still this, I don't get why a woman would see that as weakness. But yet she would want to be believed in. She would want a man to believe that she's a strong, independent, valuable, individual. But why is it so difficult for a woman to believe the same thing about the man in the relationship? I don't get that. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I really think that it's just, we haven't settled into that post-feminist era. Call it whatever you want to do. Now there are a lot of young, very assertive, very strong, very dominant women. I watch young people. I have a son who's 18. I watch
the girls are unbelievable.
They're very dominant. They're very strong. They're very assertive. They don't really understand and haven't really learned how to utilize the strength of being a woman and what that means. And it's a shame to me. It is a shame because it emasculates men exactly as we're talking about, and it kills the potential for that kind of attraction to sustain the test of time.
Final thoughts.
The stronger and more I guess my final thoughts are this: the more a woman can believe in, the more you can believe in and celebrate the men, your man, the um, the more feminine and more sexy and more vibrant you're going to feel as a woman, and your relationship is going. It has nowhere to go in that situation, but to a very passionate place, I think.
So, men are wired to protect. They're wired to serve. They're wired to be that knight with the fair maidens. And they will run through walls for you if they think that you believe they can.
Ah, I love that. Ah,
Laura,
that's so dreamy.
we'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye.